Happy Monday, fabulous ladies. It is Camille here from Prioritize Love, and I help single-driven women in how to attract a great life partner so they can have that passionate, loving, and committed relationship they truly desire and deserve. And today I've got a very special guest on the interview series. The interview series is all about how to have the cake and eat it to successful women in love and business. And I'd like to introduce you to the fabulous Liliane Grace. She's an author, speaker, and writing coach, and she is very much an expert on the concept of the hero's journey. So welcome to the call.
Thank you, Camille. It's like lovely to be here.
So great to have you. And we recently connected through, there was an event we both attended to, and then you reached out to me and we had a great chat, and we just felt that there was some real synergy between what we do. And I absolutely love the hero's journey, and you were generous enough to share, to be open to be part of the interview series. So thanks again for being here. So for the women who don't know you, you've written some great books, you have created some great things in life and have had an amazing rich journey yourself, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But in regards to what you do, tell us a bit about what you do and why you're so passionate about it.
Okay, will do. All right. What woman doesn't want to speak about what her passion is? Hey. Okay,
That's
so
right.
as you said, I'm a writer, and the thing that really inspires me is to take empowering ideas and put them out through story in particularly. So I began with a novel that I wrote for adolescents called The Mastery Club, which teaches things like visualization and goal setting and power of the mind and all sorts of character skills and that through a novel about 5 adolescents who form a club to support and challenge each other in achieving their goals and dreams. So that was my first book, and then I wrote a sequel called The Hidden Order, which is all about philosophy and universal laws and the principles. That's sort of really deep one, really rich book. And I've written a book that teaches financial literacy for teenagers. So again, teaching good content through story. And then the recent one, which we really connected on, which is called Wanted Greener Grass. And it's a novel about the hero's journey and about relationships and how to create a rich and fulfilling life.
Sounds amazing. So let's dive a little bit deeper into the concept of the hero's journey. Mm-hmm. For the women on the call who haven't actually heard about the concept and the philosophy about it, let's dive into the hero's journey a little bit more.
Okay, so the hero's journey is a story that is common to all the myths and legends around the world. It's an archetypal story, and we'll also find it in all the classic tales of film and literature because it's such an archetype. And it's basically a story that relates to the quest that we go on, the journey that we go on when we want to achieve a goal or overcome some challenge or weakness or something like that. And so it's a structure that you'll find in many films and books because it's a really good, strong structure to work with and it applies to every one of us because we're each on our own hero's journey in our own lives. We're all overcoming challenges and going after goals and dreams and things like that. Obviously, as you're part of Camille's community, so you are all on the journey of love, finding that love that I really loved what you said, Camille, about that you desire and you deserve, so to find that love and to sustain that love. And that's one hero's journey. So the hero's journey is triggered by what is called in this structure a call to adventure. And that is, the call to adventure can come from something internal or something external. So something happens outside of you, like, in the classic tales, it might be war. And so you've got to respond to this war kind of challenge. Or it might be a feeling inside you of, I want more, I want love, I want to climb that mountain, whatever it is, And so we feel this call to adventure, as it's called, and then sometimes we hesitate on the threshold. We might even refuse the call. We're not ready, it's too big, we can't, we don't feel equal to it. But then sometimes we take the leap and we set off into the unknown on this hero's journey.
Love it.
And along the way, allies will show up So for people who are seeking their love, you're an ally for them, Camille, you know. And there will be also what is called in the traditional model enemies, but basically the forces that challenge us. They might not be as black and white as enemies, but they're challenges, you know. And so then we go along the journey and we'll experience challenges and obstacles. And we may even have what's called in the classic tale a brush with death, you know, where it gets really difficult. And those who are on the hero's journey of a health issue may find that, you know. And then we end up...
Just quickly, my apologies to interrupt, but with that last step before the death part, is enemy part, can that be our own limiting beliefs, our own wanting to let go? Like, can it be our own?
Yes, absolutely. It can be our own self-doubts and things like that. It can be a lover, a family member, you know, someone who you love and who loves you, but who is doubtful and doesn't believe you can do it, or, you know, or something, or doesn't believe you should do it, whatever it is, you know. So it's just whatever throws doubts, questions, obstacles, whatever in your path, whether it's internal or external.
It's a test, so to speak.
Yes, the tests, exactly. So you get tested on this journey, and when the hero is successful, or the shero or the heroine, whatever you want to call it, you know, when they're successful, they return back into what's called, you know, their the safe zone from which they began, but they're changed, they've grown, they're different, and they come back with what's called the nectar. So in fact, that original zone is called the ordinary world. And then they go out of the ordinary world into the adventure. Then they come back into the ordinary world, but with a difference, with a contribution to enlarge the lives of everybody there from what they've learned and what they've overcome. And so, completely relevant to the love journey.
I love that. So just in your opinion, at that bottom part, because it's sort of a circle, maybe we can even, you know, as part of the recording page, maybe put that like a graphic on. Is it do sometimes people then get stuck there and then they go back to the past because it just feels too unknown or too scary to then walk, you know, go all the way throughout this hero journey?
I definitely think so. I think many of us begin the journey and then we retreat back into safety, you know, and we might, but that's life, isn't it? You know, and in fact, I remember many, many years ago reading a book by a man called Joseph Chilton Pearce called The Magical Child. And it was talking about how the child's evolutionary process is they're close by the mother where it's safe and secure. And then they take a few steps away and then they're frightened and they come back to the mother. And that's how we evolve and develop, is we go from our comfort zone out into the unknown. It's the hero's journey. And then we have fright, we come back, we regroup, we go again, we go a little further, we're a bit stronger, we're a bit braver, you know, and that's the journey for all of us through our entire lives, you know.
And I believe it's so important to be gentle with that. It's that balance of being gentle with ourselves, but also being courageous and keep, you know, to move forwards. But then when we do have to take one step back in order to go forward again, to not beat ourselves up, to, you know, to be too hard on ourselves, which are sometimes the women I coach, you know, they're very much driven, ambitious women, but they also have very high standards. And then when things don't work out, they tend to be quite hard on themselves. And I think that's a really important thing to remember.
I agree. Yes.
And back to with the hero's journey, is it really important to have that guide or mentor along the way? Is that part of how we tend to grow more?
I think it is a critical, you know, you could even say an essential part of the journey through life is to have a mentor of one kind. And, you know, when I wrote the Greener Grass novel, which looks like this for those who are looking, and worked all this hero's journey material into it, I became really aware of the degree to which that principle is present through all my writing, because that first book, The Mastery Club, is these kids who are on journeys to set and achieve goals, and they have a mentor. They have an uncle of one of the children who is their mentor, and one of the children is a bit of a mentor to the others as well, you know, and that persists through the sequel. And then the novel that I wrote, Quest for Riches, where these kids go raise money for a trip to India. There's another journey. It's a hero's journey. Are you equal to raising the money? How do you deal with all the challenges of being in India? When you come home and your family's going through financial crisis, how do you deal with that? Because we cannot not. And there's a financial mentor who shows up in that book as well. And of course, at school, you've got teachers. In our lives, the mentor is built into our life as our parent to begin with, you know, and then we outgrow the parent and we find, you know, other inspirations. It might be someone who's skilled in something we're wanting to learn, a trade or a, you know, dancing or whatever it is. They are the inspiration for us and we learn from them. So yes, short answer, yes.
Yes, it's part of the journey, it's part of the quest. Yeah. And what inspired you to write this novel?
Well, I've got to be a little guarded about how I answer that one, only because this particular novel, which is completely fictional, although there are some elements where I've drawn on my own life and my own experience, but one of the core idea, if I were to tell your readers, would give away the twist in the book. So I can't say, because there's a twist in the story, you know, and I can't give that away because I want them to read it and have the little moment of surprise. But I've long time been interested in relationships, and this particular novel has just began from a question in my mind, a what if question, which is often the thing that drives a book, which is, well, what if X and Y this or Z that or whatever, and then you go off on the hero's journey of writing the story. You know, you go off into the unknown with this idea, and it's an adventure. This is why I love writing. But the really amazing thing, which is what you and I spoke about when we had that long conversation, was not so much about this book in itself, the content of this book, as what happened in my life right after I wrote it. Because, yes, you know, I was at the time of writing in a long-term relationship with the man who was my, you know, the father of my 3 children, my business partner, very much loved him, very close friendship, you know, completely supportive relationship in many levels. And a week after I finished writing the book, a new man came into my life. And, you know, the title Wanted Greener Grass suggests that I was looking, but I wasn't, you know, I was quite content where I was really. But this new man came into my life and turned everything completely upside down. And 14 months later, I married him and, you know, had left, you know, so everything completely changed. And
wow, such a short time.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
What you said, you mentioned you were content. However, there must have been something that this man represented or something.
Yes.
that
yes.
Are you happy to share a little bit about, you know, what then motivated you to leave this really stable, healthy relationship, regardless?
Yeah. When I wrote Wanted Greener Grass, one of the messages, I guess, that I wanted to put out there was, there is no such thing as greener grass. And I meant that from the point of view that we'll never find like the ideal person who's perfect in every way, that they're all good, so to speak, to use very polarized language, you know, because these people don't exist, because we're all human, we're real, and we've got 2 sides to our character, and every relationship has a strong side and a weak side and all the rest.
Absolutely.
So I wrote this book knowing that. And I was content in my relationship because I knew that if I were to leave that relationship I was in, because yes, there were things that were challenging and difficult, but I knew that I would just generate another set of pros and cons. And so I was, you know, we'd been together 29 years. So we'd worked it out, you know, well enough we had our freedom and the things we did together and a lot of respect and love and affection and all those sorts of things. But there were things missing, you know, in that there were things other people had to provide for me because they were not his shared values, you know. Right. And in my heart, and my dream was, wouldn't it be nice if I could share these things with someone, with my lover, my partner, but it was not really happening. But because I knew you'll always get a balanced thing. I just figured, well, this is good enough, you know. This man loves me, I love him, it's good enough, and I'll just go and find the other things elsewhere, you know. I'll fulfill myself in other ways. So when this new man came along, and he was basically saying, well, I want to share those things with you. And when I did a lot of introspecting about this, I'll tell you what, you know, I saw 3 counselors and an astrologer and, you know, all sorts of stuff. And in the process, I decided that I was ready to be complete with that first relationship, that long relationship, that we had been on the journey together for a long time. And it was, I'd learned a lot, and I still loved it. And so we'd had a successful relationship because we'd been through very dark times where I didn't even like him anymore, you know, and I'd worked through that into being back in love with him, you know. So we'd had a really good growth journey. But some of what I wanted was more adventure. I wanted to travel and to take on challenges together. And my partner was more kind of winding down. Right. And life was like he was getting ready to retire, and he just wanted to kind of, you know, sit and watch TV and slow down, and, you know, and I was like, no, the kids have just grown and moved out, and I'm ready to tackle the world. Let's do stuff. So when this new man came along with more compatible visions for this stage of my life, I thought, okay, I still love you. Thank you for the journey, but let's call that an end. And I'm going to go and have this new adventure.
Amazing. And, you know, a lot of my clients, sometimes they're usually a little bit younger than where you're at, you know, around 40, early 40s. And they often say, like, you know, maybe I've left it too late. It's harder finding someone when you get older. You know, some have those sort of beliefs. What would you say to them? Because, I mean, you and how did you meet him, if you're happy to share?
Sure. Well, first of all, it's never too late. Hang in there. Because I was 53 or whatever and he was 59 when we met. And and he had thought that too. He'd thought, I'll never find her. It's over, you know, and I'm just going to have to sit on the couch with my dogs and watch TV. But by the way, if you hear snuffling noises, it's his dogs. It's not me, all right? They're sitting in here with me. But I met him dancing. So that was something I've always done, ballroom and Latin dance, and my ex-partner didn't dance. So that was one of those things that was, in a sense, missing for me. Mm-hmm. And when he showed up and he was an ex-professional dancer, so when he showed up with some skill, that was very compelling, and we had some great conversations, and it sort of all and there was obviously a lot of spark with that too, because you're both passionate about what an amazing story. And you've now been with him for quite a few years, is that right? Well, we got married at the beginning of last year, and we were together from the year before that. So we're sort of, you know, in the 3-year kind of, yeah. So you're still together, and it's still going strong, which is amazing. I think that. I was just going to say, we're just a few weeks away from the 3rd year anniversary of just meeting each other. Really? Right. Was that, or the 4th? Maybe that's, I'm losing track of that. It was December 2016 when we met. And that was the month that I celebrated my 29th anniversary with my ex. So and that was just weeks after I finished writing the Greener Grass novel. So it all happened in that December. And by that March, I'd moved in with him. So it was a very intense summer that year, the December 16, 17. Yeah. It would have taken, talking about courage earlier on, it would have taken a lot of courage to back yourself with that decision. Even, you know, maybe, I don't know, your children or other friends and family members would have probably challenged you with that too. It was a decision that required everything, you know, thinking it through, checking with the heart, checking with the body, doing some research, you know, like doing the consults and the counselling and, you know, all that sort of stuff. And it began with literally, I would be dancing with him, you know, and I would have this little voice that said, you could have a life with this man. And I would be just outraged. I'd say, be quiet. What are you talking about? I'm happily married for, you know, and then it would recur. It was just this little voice. and so I started to listen and pay attention, and there were so many little synergistic things that just kept just pushing me in that direction, you know, and it was just extraordinary. And I decided in the end to trust, but it was very scary. I remember sitting with one counsellor who said to me, you realise that if you make this decision and you leave and you're with him and it doesn't work out, that you may have burnt your bridges, you know, because by then your ex kind of moved on and, you know, all the rest of it. And that was the really scary thing, because if it did prove to be, you know, no substance to this new relationship.
It's been a bit of a fling and a bit of...
That's right. That would have been a major shock, you know, because I would have uprooted my whole family, my 3 children, and left a man who I really loved, you know, to go off on this wild spree sort of thing. So it took a lot of faith, courage, intuition, madness, you know, the whole thing. Yeah.
Amazing. So one question I love asking amazing, driven, ambitious, passionate women like you, if you had to choose in order of your values or your preference out of, you know, 1, 2, and 3, love, as in like having a fulfilling, passionate relationship, money, creating, you know, having great wealth in your life, and following your passion, so purpose and passion, what's your priority? In which order would you choose them?
Yeah, you know, I've been thinking about this sort of issue, and money always comes last. You know, I've much as I'd like more wealth in abundance in my own life, in practice, I notice that it always comes last. You know, relationship comes first, and doing the work that I love and that is meaningful to me comes first. I honestly would have a lot of trouble prioritizing between those two, because they seem to be very, they hand in hand, you know. So relationship, my children, if my children need me, boom, I'm there. You know, that's without a doubt. And and relationship is very, very important to me. I do seem to, you know, now I'm in a new relationship. Obviously, in a new relationship, you prioritize the relationship over all sorts of other things you should be doing, you know. So when I should be sitting and working on my current book, I'm sitting on the couch with him having cuddle time, you know, because it's a new relationship. So maybe you could say love is first. But work-wise, my purpose and my work are completely interwoven, and I'm often doing work that I do for the love, because there's ideas I want to share and put out in the world, even though I might not yet have commercialized what I'm doing very effectively, you know, but it still calls me to do that work. So
I love that. Great answer. And I feel with you, it's very much part of who you are. Like when we talked about your books, and it's very much part of your identity. Like you could not just put that to the side. It's part of who you are, and what drives you as well. That creative energy, which is beautiful.
For better or worse, yes.
That's right. So I guess one more before we talk, we'll wrap up in a minute and talk about an amazing offer that you have for the women listening in regards to the concept of, you know, having the cake and eating it too, like having a thriving career and doing something you love and having a beautiful, passionate relationship. What's your piece of advice in regards to how can we make sure that those 2 areas that we talked about are very much they're full and we get fulfillment in life?
Okay, well, I think, you know, in a way there are a lot of cliches in this sort of area when you answer these things, and some of them are to your intuition, you know, to listen to your intuition and your feelings and your heart and what you love. And something that I've noticed about intuition is it really is true about it being a little quiet voice, you know. And when I wrote that first book, The Mastery Club, it was this little voice, when are you going to write that book, you know, that you want to write? And that little voice that said, you can have a life with this man. And then we moved out here, we're living in the Macedon Ranges, and before we moved out here was this little voice that just said, how about living out in the country? You've always said you wanted to live in the country, you know, and it was just these little quiet voices. And I think when we listen to them, you get the next step and the next step and the next step. So trust of the little voice, the impulse, and the thing that inspires you, the thing that energizes you. I think that's really important. And I think that it's also important to apply both the head and the heart, you know, to think things through and to balance it with, you know, with feelings, you know, to
yes.
do both.
Yes, that's great advice. I mean, I talk about that a lot in my program with, you know, attracting great life partners. Sometimes it is important to step back from the emotions and to combine that, both the head and the heart. I love what you said before, though. I think that's absolutely key with listening to that little voice and really trusting it, of like, didn't you want, you know, you do still want to have a relationship, or didn't you really want to do a different thing? And I guess what we talked about earlier again, it's never too late to change direction, because we've got this life, you know. Why staying stuck doing something that we don't love, or being in a relationship that isn't totally lighting us up? So listening to that little voice, giving it space, I guess, to tune in on a daily basis. Do you have a practice or some kind of daily practice that you use in regards to tuning in?
I do. I think one of the things that I really love to do is, you know, they say that the highest prayer that we can offer is a prayer of gratitude, and that until we can be grateful for our life as it is, we're unlikely to be able to manifest something better. So something that I do is something that I call two-handed gratitude. So I'll sit in the morning, and in my right hand, I put my hands out like this, as if I'm receiving something. And in my right hand, I'm expressing gratitude for all the things that are easy to be grateful for. You know, my children, my husband, my beautiful home, my health, my, you know, just everything. And I want to, as I list them, like with a full heart, like really feel the gratitude. Then I go to my left hand, and that's the empty one, or the troubled one, you know, like that's where are all the challenges and the difficulties and things. What's the thing that's most in my face, that's most uncomfortable, that's most not working? And how can I be grateful for that? How can I what is that? How is that serving me? And that is the most useful thing to do in many ways, because it helps to release resistance, you know, to the experience that's difficult. And, you know, they say what you resist persists. And so the more you judge it as being a bad thing, the more you resist it, the more you entrench it, you know. Whereas if you can get to the point where you see how it serves you, then I think, you know, life just flows that little bit more easily. So that's what I endeavour to do, you know, and sometimes more effectively than others.
Of course, it's super powerful. I'm glad I asked you that question, actually, because I've tried so many, you know, and I've got morning rituals in place, but that is such a powerful tool, because the way I look at it is that you're really combining the, you know, the light and the shadow in this ritual, in a way where you connecting to the gratitude, and you're embracing the challenges, but you're holding space for both.
Yeah.
And to me, that would make sense, that then things will just flow more, because we don't, you know, you don't separate them as much. Really powerful. I actually thought you were going to say the other hand, inviting more, you know, more of what you're wanting. That, I guess that could be a different version, but I absolutely love what you shared. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Before we wrap up, what's the big vision for the next few years what's the next
my
hero
work,
journey
what
about?
I'm doing? Well, actually, right now, I am writing a book about the true story of what's happened with me and my relationships. And it's called Dangerous Conversations, because it's all about those very difficult, confronting conversations that we had to have. And it's bigger than that. But anyway, so that's the book I'm working on at the moment. And then I've got another idea for a health-related project. It's a project with a health message that I'm wanting to work on next. And the book Quest for Riches, that is about financial literacy. I want to get that out into schools, into to financial advisors, perhaps as a gift that they could give to clients, that sort of thing. So, you know, all of that. I would like to ramp up the speaking. I love speaking to women's groups and groups that value personal growth. So I'd like to do some more of that. Yeah. And then I've got, you know, a number of clients I work with on their own books, and it's always a joy to help someone. I mean, I'm so excited. This is one of my clients who just launched his book, and then this one, I was the guest speaker at this launch that just happened a few weeks ago. And then this is a novel one of my clients wrote, and this is a book that one of my writing students wrote. So, you know, it's lovely, you know. So that's it.
There's a lot of joy and passion and creativity going on. Absolutely love it.
Yes.
So we've got a really great offer for the listeners. So I'll get you to share it, actually.
All right. Excellent. Love to do that. So I referred to my books, The Mastery Club and The Hidden Order, and The Quest for Riches, and this one. And what I'd like to offer your beautiful ladies, your community, is that with any of my books that they purchase, I will offer a complimentary half-hour session to either talk about a book project of their own, if there's something that they've been thinking about for ages, the little voice, they've been thinking about for ages and they haven't yet got started. So if they'd like to have a conversation about their project, their book idea, or if they would like to have a conversation about applying the concept of the hero's journey to their own life process. So happy to have a free half-hour consult with them. And all they need to do to claim those is to email me with proof of purchase of a book from the website. And will you give the website in your post?
Yes. So the link of the website is going to be underneath this interview. So all they need to do is click on the link and just purchase their book.
They purchase the book, and then they can email me and say, I purchased this book and I'd love to claim that 30 minutes. And I'll be more than happy to meet them and support them however I can.
Thank you so much. And it's been, we could have chatted for ages. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here on the interview series this morning, and we'll definitely be chatting more, and potentially you'll be one of my guest speakers as well. So I will keep everyone posted with future events that I'll be running. Have an amazing week. And it was interesting, it was the 11th of November, and that interview was scheduled at 11 a.m. So whatever that means, let's think of it as it was a very, very special moment.
Yes.
Have an amazing week. Thanks so much again, Liliane.
Thank you, Camille. I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks to everyone for watching and listening.